Hello, dear fans, friends, and subscribers. Welcome to the cricket show as usual during the weekend with your host Ram. And today I'm going to talk about India actually winning the T20 series against Sri Lanka. They have already taken a 2-0 winning lead, and it's only a matter of one more match which is left, which will basically see the series to an end. But India have already won the T20 series. Thus, they could make some experimentation, I reckon. Probably some new faces would be seen in the final T20 that would be taking place. Also, the other thing that we're going to look at is South Africa versus New Zealand. It is the second test match which is underway at Christchurch. And that particular match, well, South Africans, yes, we know that South Africans suffered a reverse in the first test. But here I can say that right now they are on top, having the New Zealanders in a bit of a spin here at the Hagley Oval in Christchurch. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll also hark back to the cricket news of the week that happened. Probably the thing that I would like to start off here is by first congratulating two teams that has made it. As you know, the T20 World Cup qualifiers was on in Oman, and two countries have already qualified for the T20 World Cup happening in Australia. And the two teams are Ireland and United Arab Emirates are making an entry into it after a gap of 7 or 8 years, I reckon, because in 2014 they were there. But now again, they're making their second entry into the T20 World Cup. So big congratulations, United Arab Emirates. They played superbly, especially in the final. One of their swashbuckling openers by the name Mohammad Wasim cracked 116. He hit 8 sixes, if I'm not wrong. And this was a game against Ireland. You know, Ireland are someone who are the full member nations, and to hit a century against them and also win this particular match, I think United Arab Emirates have definitely made themselves very proud. So take a bow, United Arab Emirates. They have made it to the T20 World Cup happening in Australia in the month of October. So these are the two teams that have already qualified. Now we'll have another round of matches which will be happening where Netherlands, Papua New Guinea and all are involved. And from that particular pool also, you'll have two teams which is coming to the T20 World Cup. So it's pretty interesting. And it was a big surprise for me that this time the Oman team I thought was pretty strong, but they did not make the cut. But United Arab Emirates have been, I think they're showing having a nice blend of players, whether it is batting, bowling, or fielding, and I think that's the precise reason they have reached it. Also, they had a brief scare as well when Bahrain actually almost gave them. Bahrain actually beat them in that match. But definitely there was an upset of the tournament, no doubt about it. But the United Arab Emirates gathered themselves and put on a grand show in the finals to beat Ireland. This is at Mohammad Wasim, the star of the show, with a super century. So this is as far as I just wanted to start off with this, but now we branch off. As I said, what we are looking at, I'll take you to the Sri Lanka versus India T20 game, which India won very comfortably. And then we will talk about the South Africa New Zealand test match that is happening. And besides that, we'll also have a sneak peek at the last week's events as to what happened in cricket. Probably Afghanistan, Bangladesh have already won the ODI series against Afghanistan in splendid fashion. So first, let us go to Dharamshala. And as you know, Dharamshala is a ground where India had already won the first T20, as you would know, with Ishan Kishan smashing a century. India really did it very easy in that. But in this match, one has to say that the Sri Lankans at Dharamshala fought superbly. They, in fact, put up a very good score on the board, a very competitive score at that, one could call. It was 183 for 5. If you look at the card there for the Sri Lankans, the 183 for 5 was largely built upon Patham Nisanka. Now, one thing I would like to say in Dharamshala, the Indians were the ones who actually won the toss, and Rohit Sharma decided that he will field first, despite the dew factor probably coming to the equation. And definitely we saw in Dharamshala, as you know, it's a very hilly area and it is always raining. There is always a bit of moisture. And that's the precise reason we saw the swing bowlers, Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Jasprit Bumrah operating, and Harshal Patel as well. And they were, especially Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who is a good swinger of the ball. He really was swinging the ball right from the from the ball one. And other than that, but the Sri Lankan innings, if you have a look at the Sri Lankan innings, Danushka Ginatilaka and Pathum Nissanka opened the innings, and they definitely had a cracker of a start, one could call, because they are 67 in 8 overs. And even though the ball was swinging, Danushka Ginatilaka is someone who was not there for that World Cup, as you would remember, but I think he's a big asset for Sri Lanka, because he's someone who is a very dangerous player, in my opinion, especially in the power play overs, because he likes to go over the top. And Danushka Ginatilaka definitely showed that they were watchful against the swing bowlers, especially Pathum Nissanka too, was pretty circumspect, one could call, under the conditions, with the ball swinging around, and the bowlers, Bumrah and Kumar, were giving nothing away. They were on the mark. But then finally the wicket taker was Ravindra Jadeja with the spin, and he picked up the wicket of Danushka Gunatilakam. Danushka Gunatilaka actually got a ball. He adjusted Jadeja for 1/6, and here went for another slog sweep. The top edge went into the eye. Venkatesh Iyer, probably one thought, would have misjudged the catch, but he put in the dive at the right away, right at the end, one could call, and snapped up the catch. So Venkatesh Iyer taking the catch. Danushka Gunatilaka gone, caught Venkatesh Iyer, bowled Jadeja for 38 of 29 deliveries, which included 4 fours and 2 sixes. So that was the end of Gunatilaka. After Charita Salanka was on his way back pretty quickly, when Chahal actually got him on the sweep shot as he tried to sweep a delivery, and he was adjudged LBW for 2 to Chahal. Kamil Mishara, playing only his second match of his international career, was a victim as well. A slower ball foxing Harshal Patel, foxing Kamil Mishara with a slower delivery, as the lack of pace totally fooling Mishra, and he was gone as he drove at it, and the short cover, Shreyas Iyer, picked up the catch. He was gone for 1, and the Sri Lankans were 76 for 3 at that stage, with Pathum Nissanka joined in by Dinesh Chandimal. Dinesh Chandimal, the most experienced campaigner, definitely was guilty of playing a stroke, which was definitely not needed. As Jasprit Bumrah, he had just stroked a wonderful boundary of the bowling of Bumrah, but Bumrah, as you know, is someone who really does the change of pace excellently without any change of action. And that's what probably did Dinesh Chandimal in. Wide of the crease, Bumrah bowled. Chandimal went to drive, sliced the delivery. Sharma took the catch, 102 for 4. And this was the time where the Sri Lankans were looking in trouble. But Pathum Nissanka was there at the crease, but he was really going at even less than a run a ball, Pathum Nissanka. But what the good thing about Pathum Nissanka was that he's definitely a quality player. He's holding the innings for the Sri Lankans, and he did a marvelous job. In the end, if you see, his skipper Dasun Shanaka joined him with the score on 102 for 4. And after that, what ensued, especially considering that in the death overs, 72 runs were smashed by the Sri Lankans. And that was really, really some serious stuff. India probably would have expected them to score 150 or 160, but I thought they went over the par score. And that's the precise reason I said it is a very competitive score of 183 for 5. And Dasun Shanaka, Pathum Nissanka, yes, he started off in a circumspect fashion, but later on unwinded with some inventive strokes, especially those lap strokes that he was hitting to the boundary. And yes, one of that was the one which did him in. But what a partnership, an accelerating partnership. From 102, 58 runs were added in the next 4 overs. That was really serious stuff, one could call. But overall, as I said, in the last 4 overs, 72 runs were smashed by the Sri Lankans. Dasun Shanaka and Pathum Nissanka were the chiefs. And Pathum Nissanka's contribution being 75, 53, 11 fours. We all know that Pathum Nissanka is a future quality player for the Sri Lankans. And Dasun Shanaka, what a hit. I mean, he hit those. He's someone who is really capable of those big hits. But today, he really showed that in absolutely full measure as he went hammer and tongs at the Indian bowlers. And you look at his knock, he finished with a flourish for the Sri Lankans to end up with 183 for 5. His contribution being a punishing unbeaten 47 of just 19 deliveries, which included 5 sixes and 2 boundaries. A smashing knock from Dasun Shanaka. 183 for 5 was the final tally for the Sri Lankans. And one thought that it was a good score. India gave one too many runs, one reckoned. If you look at the bowling card from the Indian bowlers, Kumar, 1 for 36. As I said, the Indian bowlers wilted under the pressure of Dasun Shanaka in the end. Kumar who had bowled well, went for 36 of his 4 with 1 wicket. Jasprit Bumrah, 4 overs, 1 for 24, was definitely the pick of the lot. Harshal Patel got a real cracking at the hands of Shanaka and Nasankam, Pathum Nisanka. Harshal Patel, 4 overs, 1 for 52. Yuzendra Chahal, 1 for 27. Jadeja went for runs as well, 1 for 37. The Indian innings, India actually chasing a score of 183. As I said, was over a par score on this particular ground. And the Indians did not have a good start, considering that they were chasing a big total. They lost Rohit Sharma early in the pitch, trying to dab the ball to third man. Chamira clean bowled him. And for India, as we saw, India actually attacked with great swing bowling from Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Bumrah. Now, the Indian openers were dealing with absolutely raw pace. 145 clicks from both the ends. Dushmanta Chamira at one end. Lairu Kumara also bowling superbly with those pace. And Lairu Kumara, he bowls consistently. Chamira probably slips it a bit. But Lairu Kumara is someone who bowls at consistent speeds of 145, 147 clicks. And Rohit Sharma was the first to go, lost his stumps to Chamira, trying to dab the ball to third man. Ishan Kishan was dealt a big blow on his head when he tried to hook a delivery, but lucky enough, there was no concussion. He stayed on, making 16. He fell a victim of the bowling of Lairu Kumara, who shook him up after that particular delivery, and he was a victim of Lairu Kumara, a very soft dismissal. He wants to whip it towards mid-wicket. Shanaka taking the catch. He was gone for 16, and now it was left to Shreyas Iyer to take the mantle there as Sanju Samson joined him. The score at 44 for 2 as Sanju Samson joined him. Shreyas Iyer, Shreyas Iyer showed his rich repertoire of strokes here, especially with the spinners. Whenever the spinners come, Shreyas Iyer is such a talented player. He's a magnificent player of spin bowling, and he likes to go for the tonk. That's what he precisely did. He was moving with twinkling feet down the pitch and beautifully lofting he lofted Pravin Jayavikrama, the left arm spinner, for 2 sixes, one on the onside, both on the onside, but definitely showing a lot of skill there, hitting those 2 sixes of the bowling of Pravin Jayavikrama. Shreyas Iyer was involved in some nice partnership. So India's the asking rate was really spiraling because India had lost 2 wickets, and Shreyas Iyer was the man who was trying to keep up with the tempo as he joined Sanju Samson. Sanju Samson basically nurdled the ball around just for a few minutes along with Shreyas Iyer, but then decided that in one of the particular overs, I think it was, if I'm not wrong, it was that 13th over when his wicket was gone. In that particular over, he slammed 23 runs of Lairu Kumara, where he hit 3 sixes of this pace bowler Lairu Kumara, and he also added a 4 as well. And he also fell in the same over. But what a knock from Sanju Samson. As you know, Rohit Sharma has already given a vote of confidence for Sanju Samson. Sanju Samson had the full license. He's such an extremely talented player. I mean, can you believe it? After 7 years, Sanju Samson is playing T20 cricket in India. Sanju Samson is an extremely talented bloke. He made 39 of 25, 2 fours and 3 sixes. And then still the run rate was still spiraling, 128 for 3 when Samson left. It was 13th over. And you still had some work to do in that 50 odd runs still to get with 7 overs still to come. So, yes, the run rate, because of Sanju Samson's strikes on Lairu Kumara, probably the situation had improved a bit. And then Shreyas Iyer cottoned on. Ravindra Jadeja was electric with his batting. He just went and started smoting the bowlers as finally the way that the Indians did it, that was the one which was remarkable, with Shreyas Iyer and especially Ravindra Jadeja playing a really quick fire knock, as he was unbeaten on 45 of just 18 deliveries with 7 fours and 1 6. That's the precise reason we talk about Ravindra Jadeja, a big utility cricketer for India. At the other end, we had Shreyas Iyer showing his immense talent today, picking up the man of the match with a knock of an unbeaten 74 of just 44 deliveries, which included 6 fours and 4 sixes. What a knock from Shreyas Iyer. It was a wonderful partnership. It was a really a sort of a screeching partnership, one could call. And looking at the way the Indians did it, that is the more remarkable one. I mean, at 13th over, 128, Sanju Samson was gone, and they finished off the job thanks to Jadeja as well. Probably in another, it was just 19 deliveries that were required out of that. Jadeja cracked 45 of 18, and Shreyas Iyer was a mere spectator. Can you believe it? And Shreyas Iyer took the man of the match award, not of 74, 44, 6 4s and 4 6s. The bowling, so India actually winning the T20 series. There's one more to come. The final one should be a mere formality for India. Sri Lanka would like to salvage something out of it. The bowling, Dushmita Chamira, 3.1 overs, none for 39, disappeared for plenty. Binra Fernando, I thought probably after looking at the way he bowled in Australia, yes, I mean, we are talking about Australian conditions, Australian pacey and bouncy pitches. He definitely was quite a handful, and after that he contacted COVID. But Binra Fernando against India, definitely Indian pitchers are not so conducive. And we saw that Binra Fernando totally struggled. 4 overs, disappeared for 47. Lairu Kumara, I thought, was okay. 2 for 31 for him. Pravin Jayawickrama, none for 19. Chamika Karunaratne, 3 overs, none for 24. And Dasun Shanaka, the Sri Lankan captain, bowling 2 overs, went for 24. So that is that's summing up this Indian versus Sri Lanka. The India winning over Sri Lanka in the second T20, and thus also picking up the T20 series as India won the match by 7 wickets. Now, we turn our attention on to South Africa versus New Zealand. Probably when I'm talking to you, the match is probably about to start, if I'm not wrong, but we'll see. But South Africa versus New Zealand, as you know, the first test was actually won by New Zealand. And as you know, South Africa are here in New Zealand. New Zealand have already taken their maiden test win. Sorry, not a maiden test win. They are already leading the series. But what is more important is that in the history, New Zealand have never won a series against South Africa, and that is what is something which is rankling. So, can New Zealand do it this time to the South Africans? Now talking about it, if you look at the match situation here at the second test in Hagley Oval in Christchurch, it definitely seems to be in favor of the South Africans right now. So if New Zealand win, or even if the match draws, New Zealand would have picked up their first ever maiden series triumph against South Africa. But in the other hand, if South Africa wins, again New Zealand have to wait for another trip either way to actually win it. So it'll be very interesting to see how this second test pans out. But just talking about South Africa, the South Africa made a very good total in their first leg, making 364. It was run by a superb maiden test done by a very talented player by the name Cyril Irvie, and what a knock from him. I mean, he gutsed it down at the center. He was with his skipper nurturing him there, and then he played a wonderful innings. His drives were very, very crisp on both sides of the wicket, and looks to be a very good talent for South Africa. It looks, the future looks very good for South Africa as far as the batting is concerned. We have Keegan Peterson, who did wonderfully well against India, not to be seen here because of the injury. But Cyril Irvie also looks to be on that particular bracket. I reckon 108 runs, maiden test until he was severely tested in his 90s. He was not given an opportunity with Neil Wagner bowling a lot of bouncers at him, short stuff at him. But Cyril Irvie, I thought he stood the test and finally managed to, chisel out 108 runs. His maiden test and would have given him great confidence. 108 runs with 14 boundaries, which is a feature of this South African innings of 364, which they put up batting first. Aiden Markram, definitely in the horrors, one could say, and he also got a real warning from his the South African captain, Dean Elgar, telling him at the start of the test that Aiden Markram, either you score runs or this should be probably the last, and you probably have to go back and then prove your form and come back. And Aiden Markram, well, he did not start very convincingly, but later on we saw some nice strokes coming from the plate of Aiden Markram as he contributed 42 with 8 fours. But even going on 42, he was a victim. He actually played a loose shot to a ball from Neil Wagner, which was running away from him. Mitchell taking the catch of the slips. Good catch. 42 Aiden Markram. I think he would get one more stab at it, and probably he has to do much better than this if he had to hold his place. Rassim Anderson was out for 35. Bavuma making 29. And Marco Jansen, I thought, was really riled up. There was nice banter going on between Marco Jansen and Neil Wagner, the center. And Neil Wagner is someone who really he really goes for the throat of the player, as we call it. And he was nice, having a nice banter with Marco Jansen in the middle. But Marco Jansen definitely stood and survived the test to eke out an unbeaten 37 with 6 boundaries to show his all-round capabilities here. Keshav Maharaj played a good hand as well, contributing 36 of 51, 36 with 6 boundaries, as the South Africans started up 364. Looking at the bowling, Neil Wagner is the pick of the lot, 4 for 102, 3 for 90 for Matt Henry, 2 wickets to Kyle Jamieson, and 1 to Tim Southey. Now, New Zealand, in their first innings, they were into a really horror start. Kagiso Rabada getting the wicket of the opener and captain Tom Latham pretty quickly in the piece. And he was caught by Vereen down the leg side. He was gone for naught. And Will Young also guilty of playing a loose shot, one could say, as he drove away from the body and catch was sucked in by Kyle Vereen of the bowling of Rabada. So Rabada had picked up 2 wickets right up front. Devon Conway and Henry Nicholls were truly trying to, probably stabilize matters. They pushed the score on to 51, and then the next wicket to go was, I think it was Devon Conway was the next one to go. He was picked up by Jansen again. Another leg side strangle there, one could call, as this time it was Jansen the bowler, and it was taken by Vereen behind the sticks, and he was a goner. Devon Conway 16, 3 boundaries. Henry Nicholls contributing 39 good runs, but definitely playing a very silly shot at that, trying to reach a ball and trying to carve it through the point region. Sarah Larry taking a good catch at backward point. He was gone for 39, 8 boundaries included in that. And then Tom Blundell was clean bowled by Rabada for 6. And Tom Blundell shouldering arms to a delivery from Kagiso Rabada, had his trying to cover his stumps there, and late movement for Rabada, and the ball went and hit the off stick, and that was the end of Tom Blundell gone. So at that time, the South Africans were really put on the back foot at 91 for 5 with Daryl Mitchell and Colin de Granholm at the crease. But the man who really started that was Colin de Granholm. He started punching boundaries and sixes as well, as Colin de Granholm took the attack to the South Africans, as New Zealand on day 2 of the second Test match closed at 157 for 5. Colin de Granholm was not out on 54, an aggressive knock at that with 7 fours and 2 sixes. It'll be interesting to see his approach today in the morning. The ball is pretty old, only 45 overs old, so definitely Granholm can still probably wait for the morning session, probably play out the 30 minutes and probably try to unwind once again. As far as Daryl Mitchell was concerned, he was on a circumspect 29 not out with just 4 boundaries. 157 for 5, but they definitely would be saving. They definitely have come to the follow-on, so they definitely would have saved the follow-on, so that is a good news. And looking at the bowling, Rabada, the most successful, picking up 3 for 37 of 12 overs, 2 maidens. Johnson 2 for 48, none for 30 for Lutasi Pamela. Looked a bit rusty, one could call. Mulder, I thought he bowled well, but his reviews probably wasted there. None for 25. Keshav Maharaj, none for 7. So that's the match situation here at Hagley Oval in Christchurch. New Zealand will resume at 157 for 4. 207 runs still behind. Now, just going to a sneak peek of the last year, as I already shared, the centerpiece was United Arab Emirates and Ireland qualifying for the T20 World Cup in Australia. So that was one thing. And besides that, Bangladesh doing very well against Afghanistan. They've already won the ODI series, and we had a tremendous partnership, a record partnership with 2 players actually. 2 Bangladesh young players actually going on and making the highest scores in ODI cricket. Afif Hussain, 93 not out. Hassan Mirza, I thought, put some 70-odd runs, if I'm not wrong. But both of them picking up that. But what a partnership! I mean, the Bangladeshis were down in the dumps at one stage, 5 wickets down for pretty low runs. And here comes this unbeaten partnership between Afif Hussain and Matthews and Miraz putting up a colossal 174-run partnership to take the Bangladeshis to victory without being separated. That was a marvelous, marvelous stuff. And they won and in the second dig, they went on to put a much higher score of 306, with Liton Das carving his second ODI ton. And that was absolutely wonderful to see. So definitely 40 from Bangladesh recovering from 45 for 6 to go and take the victory. The Afghanistan bowler, the left-arm seamer Fazali Farooqi, was pretty impressive by bowling superbly and knocking off 4 important wickets to the Bangladesh to put them in a real spin at the particular situation. Other than that, I'm trying to see whether there's any other cricket news that I can cover. I don't think anything else is there, dear fans. It was an absolute pleasure bringing you this cricket show as usual. Hope you all liked the broadcast, and looking forward to your company once again tomorrow. That's on a Sunday. Until then, it's your host Ram signing off this on a Saturday. Thank you.